Mulgan at Harvard, Tom Malone at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Joshua Ramo. I owe thanks as well to Julia Hobsbawm for giving me the opportunity to test out some of the arguments on a group that included the historian Simon Schama and journalist David Aronovich, to Luciano Floridi for letting me air some of the ideas in the journal Philosophy and Technology, and Jens Vandal and Gina Lucarelli at the UN Development Programme for the chance to put them into practice in the field of development. Introduction. Collective intelligence as a grand challenge. There are libraries full of books on individual intelligence, investigating where it comes from, how it manifests, and whether it's one thing or many. Over many years, I've been interested in a less studied field. Working in governments and charities, businesses and movements, I've been fascinated by the question of why some organizations seem so much smarter than others, better able to navigate the uncertain currents of the world around them. Even more fascinating are the examples of organizations full of clever people and expensive technology that nevertheless act in stupid and self-destructive ways. I looked around for the theories and studies that would make sense of this, but found little available. And so I observed, assessed, and drew up hypotheses. I was helped in this study by having been trained in things digital, completing a PhD in telecommunications. Digital technologies can sometimes dumb people down, but they have the virtue of making thought processes visible. Someone has to program how software will process information, sensors will gather data, or memories will be stored. All of us living in a more pervasively digital age, and those of us who have to think digitally for our work, are inevitably more sensitive to how intelligence is organized, where perhaps in another era we might have thought it a fact of nature, magical and mysterious. The field that led me to has sometimes been given the label collective intelligence. In its narrow variants, it's mainly concerned with how groups of people collaborate together online. In its broader variants, it's about how all kinds of intelligence happen on large scales. At its extreme, it encompasses the whole of human civilization and culture, which constitutes the collective intelligence of our species, passed down imperfectly through books and schools, lectures and demonstrations, or by parents showing children how to sit still, eat, or get dressed in the morning. My interest is less ambitious than this. I'm concerned with the space between the individual and the totality of civilization, an equivalent to the space in biology between individual organisms and the whole biosphere. Just as it makes sense to study particular ecologies, lakes, deserts, and forests, so it also makes sense to study the systems of intelligence that operate at this middle level in individual organizations, sectors, or fields. Within this space, my primary interest is narrower still. How do societies, governments, or governing systems solve complex problems? Or to put it another way, how do collective problems find collective solutions? Individual neurons only become useful when they're connected to billions of other neurons. In a similar way, the linking up of people and machines makes possible dramatic jumps in collective intelligence. When this happens, the whole can be much more than the sum of its parts. Our challenge is to understand how to do this well, how to avoid drowning in a sea of data or being deafened by the noise of too much irrelevant information, how to use technologies to amplify our minds rather than constrain them in predictable ruts. What follows in this book is a combination of description and theory that aims to guide design and action. Its central claim is that every individual, organization, or group could thrive more successfully if it tapped into a bigger mind, drawing on the brain power of other people and machines. There are already some 3 billion people connected online and over 5 billion connected machines. But making the most of them requires careful attention to methods, avoidance of traps, and investment of scarce resources. As is the case with the links between neurons in our brain, successful thought depends on structure and organization, not just the number of connections or signals. This may be more obvious in the near future. Children growing up in the 21st century take it for granted that they are surrounded by sensors and social media, and their participation in overlapping group minds, hives, crowds, and clubs makes the idea that intelligence resides primarily in the space inside the human skull into an odd anachronism.